Alright guys, this is the last of these videos I'm putting together with this benchtop harness I did. You know, we showed the XM stereo receiver and how to unlock that. We showed a little bit on the body control module, the powertrain control module. I'm going to end it with the radio. So again, this is a working setup. I'll link up at the top how you can build a bench harness like this, but it's powered off my bench power supply. And I've got a switch here that simulates putting the ignition switch in the run position, and we can come over here and we show the radio is working just fine. Both FM channels, AM and XM is running on the preview. So I'm going to go back here and shut it off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this off just as if you turn the key off. We're not going to shut the power off to it because it's just like leaving your battery connected. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this XM receiver, this digital radio receiver, aside, and I'm going to pull out this little surrogate antenna, and I'm going to pull out the connections in the back of the radio that you would normally disconnect in the vehicle. And what we're going to do is we're going to simulate what happens if I needed to replace this radio for whatever reason, and I go to a salvage yard and I bring a new radio from a different vehicle. And just to keep track of these, I'm going to put a little O on here for original and a little R over here for replacement. And what if I brought this home and I put it in my vehicle and I wanted to get it going? What you're going to see, of course, is it's going to be locked. And I'm going to show you how you would normally take care of that without having to damage or mess up the radio itself. So now if I turn the power back on, I get this locked message. Right? So if I go down here and try to change the bands, I'm not able to do anything. Even though technically the XM receiver is not locked, the head unit's locked, so I can't change the bands or do anything there. So what would you normally do? Well, normally what you would do at the dealer with this kind of situation is you'd fire up your Tech2. And I'll show you how you're supposed to do this without tearing apart the radio and damaging anything or modifying it if you had a Tech2. And I'm going to show you a second way to do this afterwards if you don't have a Tech2. But I'm going to go ahead and build the vehicle. This particular benchtop harness is meant to replicate a 2004 Chevrolet J-Car Cavalier. And I'm going to go into the body. It's going to complain about there's no OnStar system. That's normal. And I'm going to come down to the radio. And then I'm going to come down to special functions and radio setup. So again, I'm going to just, we're not cutting this clip. If I pan over here, the radio is still locked. All I'm going to do is I'm going to run this radio setup. It's very similar to what you do if you had a calibration error on the radio. And I'll link a video I did previously with correcting a calibration error. But I'm going to run this setup program. And one of the things this guy's going to ask me is, what kind of radio is this? So you'll need to know what kind of radio this is by the regular production option sticker that's back in the trunk in the case of this vehicle. Other vehicles that may be in the glove box. This happens to be a US 8 radio, and there's probably some other options here. I'm just going to check. Nope. Okay, so we're just going to take the US 8 option. Now this is important for getting the right amplification for the stereo speakers that may have been installed in the vehicle, as well as activating whether or not an extra amplifier might have been in the vehicle. Then you specify the region the radio was sold in with the vehicle, and it goes ahead and does its thing. So it's going to run some tests, and while it's running, if we take a look at the radio, we see that it has already cleared the lock message. We're going to wait for it to finish, though, before we actually power it up. So it's still doing its thing. It's copying over the VIN information from the body control module, and it has run a test to make sure that's all okay. And if we pan over here again, and we turn this guy on, we lost our particular station. But if I manually go to the one that I get really well here in the garage, hold on a second, I did forget something. I did not hook our antenna back up. That is why we got some static. Sorry about that. And now if I turn to a station that comes in good and clear in this area, works just fine. So that's how you would unlock a radio normally. And you see a lot of times on eBay, they'll tell you, hey, you have to go to the dealer and get it programmed. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about running this setup either with a physical Tech2, or you can use an MDI unit and run Tech to win. So if you have a setup like this with the MDI, right? You can also use one of these, and you would just use, on these older vehicles, you'd use the Tech2 emulator on Windows to do the exact same thing. So what if you don't have any of these tools? What can you do? Well, what I'm going to show you also is how you can open up the unit, and we'll use this one we already swapped out because they're both unlocked now, and they're both basically clones of each other at this point with the same VIN. And I'm going to open this unit up, and what we're going to do is we're going to, without touching the, without damaging the board and without removing the EEPROM and lifting legs and all these other kind of hacks you see on these other videos, if you want to do this without damaging everything, I'm going to show you how to reprogram the EEPROM to do the same thing that the Tech2 does. We'll do manually. So let me get set up with that and get the Tech2 out of the way, and we'll come back and do that. All right, guys, I've got the original radio that we started with, and your radio may look different when I get this apart because obviously this is the one with a CD player and no cassette. This radio was available in 03, 04, and 05, very similar to radios in 02 and 06. But when I get it open, it might be a little bit different, but the technique I'm going to show applies to them all. So you're going to have to first flip it over because obviously on this piece on the top cover, we've got the CD player drive mechanism. And so we want to flip this guy over, and you can just take a small flathead. There are some slots in the back on this lid that you can use the screwdriver to kind of help you get this started. Just kind of give it a twist, and it'll get this guy started to the point where you can get it off enough where you can use your fingers to get it the rest of the way. Get it up a little bit more. Just want to get one of these corners up enough to do that. I think it might be enough. It's enough on this side. Not quite enough on this side. Just got to be slow and patient with it. There it goes. Once it pops off, you can reveal the circuit board that is inside. And let me turn a light on here. It might make it a little better. No, probably not. We'll go with the flashlight route. The chip we're after is one of the two that is obscured by this tuning knob. So we're actually going to have to do some further disassembly in order to get at it to the point where we can use one of these test clips to reprogram the EEPROM. So what we're going to have to do that is to remove the front plate off of this guy. And so to start that disassembly, what I'm going to do is remove these knobs. So these two will come off together. So there's two pieces to them. Just kind of keep them together if you can. At the very base, there might be, it sometimes falls out, but there's a little felt piece in here. If you see those, just keep an eye on them. And I'm also going to remove this guy. Just going to try and see there. You can see that felt piece there. It's kind of sitting in there. So when we take this off, we just want to make sure we don't lose those. They're just little insulation pieces. And then the next thing we're going to need to do is loosen up one of these bolts that's holding this guy, but we'll be able to take this off before we do that. So getting this off, got a series of these little clips that you're just going to have to work off. And this part here can be a challenge to your patience, right? Because as you get one off, invariably they're going to want to try to go back on. But if you can get a pair of them to stay off for a moment, and you can get one side off, then usually you'll start winning the progress with this process. What I might do, just because I'm trying to show you this and film it, I might get a couple of little stubbies to stick under here. I mean, little shims to stick under here to keep it from snapping back. Let me go grab a couple of those. All right, I'm back, guys. I just wanted to find, I've got some of these little guitar pick looking tools. Use them when I'm working on a smartphone, an iPhone, or an Android phone to get the screen glass off the back or the front screen. But they'll work nicely to keep these guys from snapping back in on us. So I'm going to start on the other side because the tabs on the other side are smaller than these tabs. But before I flip it, I didn't show pulling these wires out, these harness connections out. So I want to do that now. These are just the two that connect to the front control panel. You don't need to do this one that goes into this tuner knob button here on this little board, just these two. All right, so flip it back around, put this guy into position, take a little spudging tool or even a small flathead screwdriver, something you can use to slide them in like that. And then with those guys keeping that from snapping back in, we'll be able to work these guys off the side. And as soon as we let this one go, we'll probably have those clips fall. Yep, there they go. Okay, and then the last one is going to be this guy. There's that one. And you just want to be really patient with these tabs because, you know, they're plastic and they've got a lot of miles on them at this stage. This one here, I kind of bent a little bit, but I can fix that. All right, and then we're just going to fold this down so that we don't damage this connection here. What I can do on this guy is I can just put a little hot air on him from a blow dryer or something. He'll stick back his original position. Okay, let's keep going. Next thing we want to do is take this nut off so that we can move this little board out of the way. It's super, super thin. But eventually you'll get a bite on it and you can spin this off. And that's the only thing that's holding this little board that's obstructing our view in the way. So get this guy off. And now with this moved out of the way, we can finally get access to the chips we were talking about down here. So when you look all the way down here and you zoom in on these chips, the guy we're interested in is the one closest to the metal frame to the left in the view here. It's got a house part number on it, a Delphi house part number, but it's actually a typical 24C08 EEPROM, and that's the way we'll be able to read it. So let me go ahead and hook up the test clip to that, and then we'll come over to the EEPROM software and read it in. And fortunately, these radios, the way they're wired up, you can typically read these chips in circuit. It's just a matter of getting a good grip on it with the test clip. I think I got it there. We'll see if we've got a read over here. So I've set the IC in the particular software I'm using as a 24C08. Let's see if we got it in the right position. Nope, it's missing a contact with one of the pins. Let me just re-swizzle that. While you can save a lot of time not having to remove these from the board, it does sometimes take a couple of tries to get them into the right. All right, we finally got a good read on this. Sorry about the delay with the test clip. So let me tell you some of the information that you're seeing in here. So there's two pieces of information that are recognizable. This value that you'll see is the serial number of the radio. You can find this on the Delco electronic sticker that you'll see on the side of the radio itself. And then what's tying us up, and this you're not going to touch, this is just so you can kind of recognize what you're looking at. Your preset information will be stored in here in a kind of obfuscated way, but then what's really of use to the video here is this. This value starting at this location to here is the last 6 digits of the VIN number. And this is what we would need to unlock. Now, I have a version of the EEPROM in here that I have written to this right before we started this clip. I mean, basically all I did is I came over here and I loaded this VIN that has been pre-saved, and I rewrote this chip so that we would have that value. Because if you guys recall, this was a radio that was already unlocked, right? So we don't have a problem here with it already being unlocked. If the radio's unlocked, paradoxically, if you go in here and mess with the VIN number, the BCM will go correct it. And the reason is because it recognizes the serial number of the radio already, and for whatever reason, the firmware deals with that kind of situation. So I have to get this into a state where it's unlocked to begin with. And then I'll show you how we unlock it manually. Now let me just prove to you that we're in that kind of a state, right? So we wrote this chip and we got it sitting at this different VIN number down here, 251284. And we've got this M140687739 as the serial number. So let's walk over to our setup. I'm going to take the test clip off of this guy. And then I'm just going to route our cables in here because I do need to reconnect the front panel so we can actually see the information displayed on there. Got to get both of these to come through. Here we go. I'm going to reconnect the small guy, and then I'm going to go reconnect the larger one. Sometimes there's a little bit of slack that gets caught up if you don't route it to the exact same little crevice. I went up too high and cut off some of my slack, so I had to move it down to the lower one. All right, and then I want to get this guy off the board so that he doesn't cause any kind of shorts or anything. Just kind of write him over here just so he's not sitting on the board. And then I'm gonna just kick it just like this. I'm not gonna try to reassemble it any further. And I'm just gonna go in here and reconnect our radio. We still have our bench supply powered up. It's upside down, of course. You hear the CD motor going right there. I'm going to flip our switch on. I'm not even going to connect up the antenna because I don't care about getting any reception, but you can see we're locked, right? So we're in the locked state again. So we put this EEPROM back into a locked state where the BCM says, hey, I don't know what this radio is, and it's the wrong VIN number, so I'm locking it out. All right, so now I'm going to show you how we can unlock it. So I'll turn the switch off. I'm going to re-disconnect these connections. And then I'm going to bring it back over here. Now before I actually open it up, I'm going to show you the sticker on the side I was referring to. Now here's where you can see that number that I was talking about. And we could find that number still left up on the screen from when we read in the chip previously, M140687739. That's the serial number of this particular radio. So now let's go unlock it. So I'm going to go get this guy out of the way again. I'm going to disconnect our two little connectors for the front panel. I'm going to go ahead and lay this guy back down. Of course, one of these little clips on the bottom got stuck. There we go. All right. And then we're going to have to get our test clip back into position again, which is probably the hardest part of the whole thing. And the reason it's so hard on this one, by the way, is you've got this little metal tab here in the way. And it's always going to be kind of putting pressure on the test clip and trying to move it to the side. And so that's one of the reasons why this particular one is so hard to get a good connection, because you got this guy pushing against you. All right, I'm going to clear this out. I probably don't have it connected yet, and if I don't, I may break this just to get this going so you guys don't see me taking 2 or 3 tries to get this test clip to properly get in position. Try it one more time before I do that. All right, hey, got lucky. There it is. All right, so now I'm going to come down here and change this VIN. And this particular vehicle to unlock this is 160309. Haven't touched anything else in here. I'm just going to write this out. I'm going to clear the buffer, and I'm going to read it back in to make sure it took 160309. And now I'm going to walk over and do the same thing. Take the test clip off. I'm going to go ahead and route these guys through the correct hole this time. Reconnect up our large cable. Reconnect up our small cable. Get our little tuning knob here out of the way so it's not shorting anything out. Come over here and hook up our 2 connections. Here, our CD player come on. Actually, I'll probably put our little antenna here this time. And this time we're not locked. And the radio's working. So that's how you unlock the radio manually. So now I've shown you 2 different ways to do this. I've shown you how to do it with a Tech2, which is how the dealer would do it. And if you don't have a Tech2, I've shown you how you can do what the Tech2 would do, which is go in there, read the information about the radio serial number, see what the VIN is, and get the VIN matched and coded to the body control module as part of the setup procedure. We've done that manually by programming the EEPROM manually using an EEPROM programmer. And all I've done here with this, you can use any EEPROM programmer really, you just need one that's capable of reading in circuit. I just used one of these low $5 jobs on eBay. Actually modified this for 5-volt automotive use. I'll put a link up in the top if you're interested. So I hope this helps you out, helps you save some money. If you got some comments, leave them down below. I'll try to help. Otherwise, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.